Creamy semolina custard encased in crispy golden filo pastry, drenched in syrup. It is everybody's weakness, especially mine. I'm going to show you how to make the most delicious galactoburriko. I can't wait. Let's make it. So to begin our galactoburriko, we're going to prepare our syrup first. It's really important that our syrup is nice and cool, so when we pour it over our galactoburriko once it's baked, it sizzles up real nice. In goes the water, just like that. I'm going in with my sugar, 1 cinnamon stick, juice of half a lemon. This will prevent our syrup from crystallizing. For extra citrus flavour, I'm going to add a few ribbons of lemon rind and some whole cloves. I've also got some honey here. I'm going to pour that in at the end so our honey can stay nice and fresh. I've got my filo pastry ready to go. I've let it come to room temperature. This makes it easier to work with. I've got lots of butter here. Just going to grease my tray with butter. Make sure the filo can stick nicely to the edges, and also generously butter each sheet of filo pastry. This part is really important. We want a generous brushing of butter so it can turn golden and crisp in the oven. One by one, I'm just going to layer 10 sheets at the bottom. And every time I lay a sheet down, I'm just going to turn it so we can cover the whole area of the tray. So with every piece I lay down, I just rotate it ever so slightly so we ensure that the whole tray is being covered. And I let the filo overhang. That way when we pour our custard in and we add more filo on top, we can roll in the edges and it will give us a nice crunchy edge as it bakes. Ensure that the filo reaches the edges of the pan, the corners, and any overhanging parts, make sure they're nice and buttered as well. I've laid about 10 sheets of filo pastry down into my tray, and I'm going to cover it with a dry cloth while we make our custard. It's important to cover only with a dry cloth and never damp. There we go. So to start the creamy semolina custard for our galactoburriko, we're going to start with adding milk to our pot, just like so, and adding our semolina right in. Turning the heat just to medium. We don't want it to come to a rapid boil. We just want it to be hot enough to cook the semolina. Straight in like so, along with our sugar. Now this is totally optional. I like to add a little bit of citrus rind to my custards. It just gives it a little bit of a citrus infusion. Totally optional, but if you do add it, don't forget to take it out of the custard later. Give that a good mix, constantly whisk. We don't want anything to stick to the bottom and burn. And eventually our custard will thicken and we can pour it right into our tray. Coming back to the syrup, I'm going to add our honey straight in and just mix it through. I really like adding the honey at the end because it's still fresh and the flavour is still honey-like. Okay, and we're going to let that cool. Let's get back to the custard. Our custard has thickened. It is so creamy and smooth. You can just see that consistency there is perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 egg straight to the custard, and you need to be quick because the custard's really hot and we want that egg to incorporate really quickly. Just like so. Perfect. And to give the custard a little bit more richness, I'm going to add some butter straight in, and we're going to whisk that through as well and pour it straight into our tray. Don't forget to fish out that little piece of lemon rind. We don't need it anymore, but it's infused our custard beautifully. Our tray right here waiting for us, and just pour the custard straight in. So smooth and luscious. Look at that. It is going to bake perfectly. Yum. We've poured in our delicious, luscious custard. Now it's time to cover it with more filo pastry. I'm going to go in with another 10 sheets on top. Make sure they're very well buttered because this is the top layer, so it will bake and brown beautifully. Another one on top. And each time I lay down a piece of filo, I rotate it slightly so it covers the entire tray, and just press it down very gently so it touches the custard. Don't forget to allow the ends just to overhang. That way when we scrunch the borders in, it'll bake and make a delicious crust. And our last sheet, One last generous brush of butter, although I'm probably going to add more. Going right on top, nice and even. And now we're going to roll and scrunch the overhanging pieces to create a nice border around the tray. Just like so. Doesn't have to be so perfect, it can be nice and rustic. It's really important to cut the slices of the galactoburrico before you bake. That way it's easier to cut after we bake it. Cutting my slices through. I'm not going all the way through, just a little bit. And you can create any kind of design you want. I like to cut mine on diagonals. There we go. Perfect. So our galactoburrico is ready to bake. We're going to put it in the oven for about an hour or so. We want our fillet to get really nice and crunchy and crispy and golden. And when it's ready, we're going to pour over that really nice citrus-infused syrup that's cooled. I can't wait. Let's have a sneak peek. It's looking nice and golden and crisp. That's what we want. And we've got our syrup that's cooled and ready to go. We need to be quick here. This is the fun part. I love the sizzle. Amazing. I'm just going to let this sit and soak that syrup. Let it cool down a little bit so that custard can set, and then we can cut a slice and enjoy it. So our galactoburrico is ready. I can't wait to dig in. The syrup has been soaking for about 30 minutes. The custard has set. It's still a little bit warm, just the way I love it. I'm so excited to get in there and cut a piece. I'm not even going to wait.